evening. I'm the Easy Coach, Ethan Evans, and I am pleased to have you all here. Welcome. I am excited about tonight's show, and I appreciate you being here. Our topic tonight is ego in the workplace. A lot of what I'll say will apply to ego all over the place, not just in the workplace. But I'm going to focus on work as our use case, simply so that we have a focus, and that's what I do most of. But we're going to talk about managing ego and how to deal with it. And hello, Furrow Key, welcome in. We're going to jump right on it. Okay, so as I always say, I'm speaking for myself, not for anyone else, not for Amazon, not for Twitch. And I see a lot of regulars here in chat. You folks already know, ask questions in our question extension. And I actually thought someone had already submitted a question earlier. Yep, there's one question already in, which never happens. So whoever did that, well done. They asked a question offline and put a question in already. Thank you. Well done. The other thing I'm going to cover several times tonight, and forgive me in advance, is I'm going to run a charity auction during my next show on Tuesday the 15th. And that charity auction is for my favorite charity, the Washington Trails Association, where I'm a member of the board of directors. And my birthday is coming up, so it's a happy birthday to me. And I hope you'll join me. I arranged months ago to have Jill Simmons, the CEO / executive director of the Washington Trails Association, come on our stream next week. And she'll be able, so we will do a charity auction, which I'll explain in a second. But she will cover a bunch of topics of interest. Number one, she used to lead a Seattle government agency. And so she can cover working in the government and what it takes to get things done in government. Number two, she now leads a nonprofit. So she can cover working in a nonprofit and what it takes to lead in a nonprofit. And these are things I know very little about. Like, I'm not the right person compared to Jill to help people who are interested in those careers. So I'm hoping you'll get a lot out of that, and we'll have a good discussion. We'll also show some pretty pictures of hikes and the work we do. But let's get to the auction part. So people often ask me about private coaching. And I have to tell them, look, I don't have much time. I do this show, and that's my contribution. And I work full time as an executive. But I'm going to I'm going to auction off several hours of my coaching time. And I'm also going to do something special for subs. I'm going to raffle off 1 hour of private coaching offline, if you like, which will be the intent, to some lucky subscribers. So anyone who's a channel subscriber at the end of the broadcast next Tuesday on the 15th, one of our mods, 40 Pink Dragons, will take all the subscriber names and we'll do a drawing and award an hour of coaching to that person. And then the rest will be auctioned for donations to the Washington Trails Association. So the way that's going to work is, sorry, my dog is scratching his collar outside the room and I can hear it. And it's like, what is that noise? There's a rabid chipmunk outside. But look, the great thing is you can tell your friends, you can tell anyone you want. If you buy an hour of coaching, if you win the auction or you win the raffle and you don't want it yourself, you can give it to somebody else. So you can also, that way, people who may not have something they want to be coached on, but would like me to help a friend, a spouse, a family member, someone important to them, I'm going to be doing that. And you'll have that chance. I have no idea what the bidding will go for. I told the channel honestly that the last person who contacted me about coaching, I told them, and it's listed on my website, that I normally don't consider coaching privately for less than $1,000 donation. And he paid up quite happily. I don't expect everyone here to pay $1,000, although you're welcome to. It's all for a good cause. What I do expect is that's why I'm doing the raffle. Any subscriber can get in for $5 and have a shot at it because I'm trying to make it open to everyone on the channel. Okay, enough about that for the moment. Let's jump into ego. I can't wait to talk about this. So first off, many of you know I collaborate a lot with Devin Nash. And Devin had a great stream on Friday where he had a guest, Dr. Kanagia, who is a Harvard psychologist, some Ivy League school, I think Harvard. And that guy had several good quotes about the nature of ego that I'm just going to pull up and share. I won't show them off. I'll just read them off. Because those quotes are dead on how ego works. The first, and so when I talk about ego and when he talked about ego, we're not just talking about people who are egotistical or arrogant. And so ego and egotism and arrogance. All right, there's Chalupa Whale getting in. And so welcome to the community. Welcome to the raffle. So we have egotism, but we also have just pure ego means his definition is ego is the part of us that is judged by others. So pretty much anytime you feel judged, and Furoki, the blue shirt, made its reappearance. Anytime you feel judged, that is your ego responding and defending you. He also said, which I agree with, the ego developed for the sole reason of protecting you. It's a protective mechanism. So I'll talk a lot about this in a minute, but when we feel pain, emotional pain, our ego jumps in to keep us safe and comfy and warm. And what it does, in his words, which I love, our ego goes to our rational mind and says, we are going to do some really selective reasoning. And this is what happens when people rationalize their actions. They're going to do something evil, awful, stupid, bad, mean, selfish. They don't want to see themselves as evil, bad, stupid, mean, selfish. And so they have to rationalize. And so the ego goes to their mind and says, it's okay, I've got a story for this. And it makes up whatever tenuous concoction of nonsense it needs to, so that the person can say, oh, no. When I stabbed him with a fork, it was for his own good. It had to happen. And that's what our mind is really good at doing because it helps us feel good. And we're very good at looking out for number one. So stories are always fun. And what I love to share is, let me tell you a true story. I don't know. This is about a viewer I know. I don't know if he's on the channel tonight, but I'm sure he'll hear about it. So he was driving his car to work and he pulled up to a stoplight and I forgot what was going on, but he stopped like right at the edge of the stoplight. Oh, I know. He was the last car and it had turned yellow and he decided not to gun it and go through. Well, the guy behind him ran into him and whacked him pretty good. And so the driver of the car gets out and the driver of the car who hit him gets out. And that second driver runs up and punches the guy he just hit. Now, according to several witnesses on the sidewalk, because I've seen the video of the witnesses talking afterwards, several of the witnesses felt it was clearly that the second driver rear-ended the first driver. So why did that, and that the punch was totally uncalled for. There's a great video in this case of this woman shouting at the second driver saying, you are a total animal, and just freaking out on him for hitting the guy. So the question is, why did this guy, after hitting someone, feel that the right next step was to go up and punch him too? This is the secret of how ego works. And you can't make this stuff up. Now, that driver had just hit somebody, but he couldn't accept that was his fault. It had to be somebody else's fault. He's got a ton of emotion. He's just been in a wreck. His car is damaged. He gets out. Oh my God. The truth is, oh my God, I just hit this guy and damaged his car and mine. But he can't deal with that. So it's got to be somebody else's fault. Well, who else's fault could it be? It could be the other driver. So he runs up and pops him one right in the face in front of all these witnesses, like an insane act. Now, why? Well, it's the other guy's fault. And his rationalization to himself was, well, you should have gone through the yellow light. The fact that you stopped makes my hitting you your fault. And it's so much your fault that I'm so angry and so upset. Bam. That's ego. That's the case. That's somebody who needs to make themselves feel better. They can't deal with the fact they need to apologize. They actually have to hit someone. And if you were to see the video, which I've seen several times, this woman goes after the guy and is like, you're a total animal. He comes this close to hitting her too. So somebody's in his face and telling him, you're in the wrong. You're a bad person. And again, that's his ego. He now needs to digest. See, this is what happens with ego. And it's what happens at work. I'm not telling a work story, but it's what happens at work. He's punched someone. Now he's just adding things up. I hit you. Now I've punched you. Now someone else is telling me I'm wrong more for hitting you. What am I going to do? I'm going to hit her too. Now, finally, it breaks through to him like, there's a circle of people filming me. Maybe punching this woman who's calling me out isn't a solid play. So he walks off camera and the video stops. But the point is, that's his ego was ready to make up any story, including, oh, this woman yelling at me. She's a threat too. Bam. So that's one story of ego. And in the workplace, ego luckily rarely comes out as thrown punches, but you're going to run into it in many forms. And when we talk about dealing with ego at work, I have to be careful. Ego comes out anytime the ego is the part of us that's judged by others. So anytime someone feels judged or threatened, unless they're self-aware or very tolerant of emotional pain, they're going to come out, they're going to have ego come up, and they're going to tend to try and dislocate that. It's why people make excuses at work. It's very hard to look your boss or look your coworkers straight in the eye and say, I know I said I'd get that done last night, but I decided to pop a cold one and watch TV or to Netflix and chill. It's a lot easier to say anything else because we can't deal with that emotional pain. So let's see, there's questions here. Chalupa, I know you know how the question system works. You must think this is relevant to what I'm saying. Wait, why is that ego versus that guy just has an anger management problem? So these two are hard to tell apart, like just anger management. Look, anger management, that's his problem with managing it. And you're right about that. But at work, since people aren't going to punch anyone, they can let that anger leak out in all kinds of ways. You see, anger is rarely the actual emotion. And we have, I don't know if he's still here, but we had Life Coach 724 in the channel a minute ago. He taught me a lot about this. Anger comes from another emotion. It comes from shame. It comes from failure. It comes from something else. And anger is our defense mechanism. Now, there are cases of righteous anger. where you see an injustice and you respond to that injustice by getting angry. But usually, anger is what we do to shield some other emotion. Um, so, what you see in these cases is at work, people feel threatened, hurt, scared, stressed out. They may or may not throw a punch. They may or may not be overt if they have good anger management, but then they go into different tactics to protect their hurt. And the point we're going to talk about a little bit tonight is that protecting your hurt is what leads to the workplace problem. And then we'll talk a little bit about what to do about it also. Is it possible that some anger management issues stem from these egotistical outbursts? Absolutely. Because what causes the person to get angry in the first place? They have some, and I don't know, Devin said he'd be here if he could later on, but Devin Nash, he was wrestling with why do trolls attack him? And we talked about that some. Trolls have issues in their lives. They're unhappy, they're not satisfied, and their ego is in pain. The fundamental point I'm making, and I'll go through this, is if you put any human, including me, including you, under enough pressure and in enough pain, emotional pain, or physical pain as an illustration, you will try to alleviate that pain in the fastest possible manner. The worse the pain and the less your coping skills, the more you will take the easiest way out, no matter how destructive. And this manifests at work. We can describe it with pain, right? If your hand's in a fire, you jerk it back. And maybe jerking it back is a bad move where you're at. Like there's a tiger behind you and your hand's going to get eaten now, but you could have kept it in the candle. The point is, though, we react. Emotionally, at work, the same thing happens. Someone is late on a deadline, and then you come, and you don't know they're late on a deadline. Here's a real scenario. We'll use me. I'm late on something. Somebody comes to me and says, Ethan, can you do this other thing today? I will lash out at them, or I'll just reject it. I'll say I can't. Or maybe I explain why. I can't do that. I'm working on something else. That's rational. But let's say it's my boss, and he's pressing on me for something. I may not feel comfortable telling him I can't do what you're asking. I need to do this other thing that also has to happen that maybe you also want. So instead, I will start coming up with excuses, or I will attack the work. You move from responding to the problem, which is, hey, I can't do both things you're asking for, to resisting the work. So you change to saying, this isn't really important. And you get into an argument about the importance, when the real issue is you can't do both things and you feel bad about that. Or you get into, if it's a coworker or somebody you don't like, or even just you're in a bad mood, you get into attacking the person. And you say, isn't that really your job? Or shouldn't you give that to somebody else? Or best, because I don't want to be in a fight with you either, that's painful, I say, hey, shouldn't you dump that on Sarah? Or shouldn't you dump that on Fred? And so I push it off. This is what ego does. I don't want to have the discussion, I can't do everything. Instead, I push it. And T Weirdos nailed this. I was going to get to this point. People do this without realizing it. In other words, I'm describing these scenarios and walking you through what's really going on. But people under pressure don't always realize why they're under pressure or that they are under pressure. Metamyth, thanks for the follow. They don't realize why they're in pain. And they don't realize that they're medicating the pain. And the place this matters for the audience is you can see very irrational behavior in the workplace that is coming from people medicating their pain and avoiding it. But they don't necessarily even know. And by the way, everyone does this. When I'm tired, if you catch me in the wrong mood, I will lash out. And I don't mean to, and it does make me a jerk. And I'm not saying it's right, but if you catch me under the wrong mode, everyone is short with people. I'm medicating the fact that I'm tired and overwhelmed. That's my internal state you can't see. And you see this all the time. All of us have said to someone, wow, did you get up on the wrong side of the bed this morning? And Shadow says she needs her coffee for sure. This is the whole joke about coffee in the morning. Why is that a meme? It's a meme because when people aren't fully awake, they're more interested. Like when you're asking them to think hard or do something right in the morning, they're not feeling up to it. But instead of saying, you know what, I'm kind of dragging ass right now, I'm not up to it, they can be snippy. And that's ego in pain. It's minor pain. It's not like the guy hitting someone over the car, but that's what it is. So, okay, I've pulled up my notes here. The next point I want to make, by the way, not all feedback you get that's negative and not all resistance you get to your plans at work is necessarily ego. And in fact, be self-aware. If you find yourself snapping at people and resisting all kinds of feedback and requests, there is ego involved, but it's probably your own. The best way, and we're going to talk about what you can do with ego at work. Lesson number 1 in understanding ego at work is understanding your own ego and how your own ego gets in the way of things. So we're going to go to questions in a minute. We have a couple questions in. Everybody here knows the drill. There's 33 people viewing right now. We have a couple questions with a couple votes, but go into the extension and put in your questions on this topic, managing ego at work, and we'll jump on it here in just a second. That said, I want to talk about, okay, I've given you all the symptoms of ego and some stories about ego. I have a couple more I can tell. What the hell do you do about it? Well, the first thing is you have to try to recognize and understand. Recognize first, and if you can, understand what is causing the person that you're struggling with. What is causing that person to be in pain? And what is causing them, him or her, to react this way? You can't always figure it out, but trying to get some sense of, is this person reacting normally or abnormally? Do they have a truly rational objection, or are they basically giving me a stonewall? And this is hard to figure out, and I'm not going to go into all the ways to figure it out. But if someone seems to be irrational, you look for pain in their life. You look for, are they overworked? Is your request difficult for them? Is it difficult for their skill set? Is it difficult for their schedule? Is it difficult for their group, their budget? Any of these things can cause them to react. I was recently in a situation with my own leadership where I could see that something I needed that was pretty rational was hard for one of the bosses above me for budgetary reasons. And that was leading him to really question the plans much more than usual. And I figured out, yes, the questions on the surface are reasonable, but part of the real objection is your budget is a pain in my overall budget. And if I can just find enough reasons to say no, whether they're rational or not, my problem, his problem with the budget gets better. And so I realized, I've got to deal with not only the superficial questions, but what do I do? What can I do to change his budget situation or to get myself out of that locker, that problem? So, okay, once you recognize something's wrong with the person, they're struggling, the next thing is empathize with it. Realize we've all had bad days and we've all been in bad situations. The person may be a complete jerk, but we've all done jerky things. And so you can look at it and be somewhat empathetic to their situation and not make it worse. The next thing is really hard. Usually, when someone in an ego situation pushes back on you, that person now is threatening your ego. So, like in that situation, the leader above me was threatening effectively the budget of one of my projects. Well, what do? Right? He's threatening one of my projects. Well, one of the things I can do is let my ego respond to that. I can get scared. I can get hurt, worried. You're being irrational. And now my ego wants to launch into counterattacks to protect me. This is where things go south. And that's why it's important to get good at recognizing your own ego. The Buddhists call this being able to sit with your own discomfort. So you are under attack. The person is denying your project. They're denying your promotion. They're giving you more work. They're telling you they won't help you. That's threatening you because you have something you're trying to get done at work. If you then let your ego say, oh, he's bad. Like, it's not just he or she is under pressure. He or she is a bad person. And I'm going to counterattack. All of this is usually subconscious. You end up in a spiral of escalation because then I launch an attack back. Maybe with my boss, I say, that's not reasonable, blah, blah, blah. Well, then he says, well, you're overreacting. You don't know, and I'm not overreacting, and you're in a death spiral. You can't get into that. You must avoid it. So, the last thing you do is if you can figure out what's bugging them, then you try and work around it. He had a budget problem, so I try and help with the budget problem. Or I try and get myself into separate consideration where when he's thinking about what I'm proposing, he's not thinking about his overall budget problem. The point is recognizing the situation. Often the best question is, would it be better if we discuss this another time? Another thing is take an ally, take witnesses. Remember, I told the story at the beginning of the stream of the guy punching the other driver and getting ready to punch the woman who called him out on it. But there were too many witnesses. Witnesses make it much harder because if I start behaving like an ass, no matter what form that takes, too many witnesses, and I realize I'm not going to get away with it. So, awesome. All right. So let's jump into questions. Meanwhile, I love the fact, we have a lot of questions. This is fun. So we have one pinned up top. Let's go. Can a coworker be super busy, yet you interpret their busyness as them having a strong ego? How do you conclude if a coworker truly has a strong ego, or in reality they are just super busy? I don't think this has a complex answer. If someone is usually accommodating but seems busy, they probably are. If they're busy and it's useful work, they probably are someone who gets a lot done. And so if someone is getting a lot done, a lot of valuable things done, they're probably very busy. If someone doesn't seem very busy to you ever, and they don't get much done, but they're always blowing you off or otherwise pushing you away, then I think there's something else going on. One of the things about ego, obviously, is figuring out what's going on with another human being requires, Chalupa Whalier says, always assume good intent is what I go with. Hey, Jay Chosen. You need to assume good intent, but you also need to get to know people. Human interaction is very hard to do what we call a cold read. Cold read is where you've just met someone, you've never seen how they interact. their interactions seem inappropriate. They seem harsh. They seem short. They seem whatever. But you don't know them. It's very hard to tell style from intent early. But with a coworker here who seems to be super busy, I don't know. Are they producing anything? Are they a top performer? They might be really busy. Yes, Furoki, this is a great quote. You've started it. You said, don't attribute to malice. I specifically believe the full thing I would say as I phrase that quote is, don't attribute to malice when there's any other explanation. Again, most people aren't malicious. You may run into them, but most people are selfish, inconsiderate, tired, overworked. There's a whole list of things they may be. They're usually just interested in their life going more smoothly. It's that simple. Most people want to have an easy, great life. And when you think about it, you do too. I want to have an easy, great life. And each person has some amount of motive to do a good job. And that varies. Some people, sadly, couldn't give a shit. If they could do nothing and get paid, that would be fantastic. And some people really want to earn every dollar. And they have an internal motivation to be their best, regardless of how much they like the work or the coworkers or whatever. And I really admire those people. Yeah, Jay Chosen says, I like accomplishing big tasks. So I don't know if Jay is male or female, but he or she likes doing work. So when you come to someone like that with a request, they have an internal motivation to try to make it to try to make it happen. But if they have something else going on in their life, that motivation is only so strong. Classic example. Years ago, I got divorced. If you work long enough, you'll work with all kinds of people who go through divorces or illnesses. When that was on my mind, I had a lot on my mind. And I was in a lot of personal, emotional discomfort. So when someone asked me to do more work, I may or may not have been interested. And my interest in work is only so strong when I have something else on my mind. And if you don't believe this, try asking someone to hang around work when they've just learned their kid's been in a car accident. Try telling them that a report is really important when they're ill. It doesn't work because they have other priorities. All right, this was a good question. We're going to move on. I love the fact there's lots of questions. Keep them coming. And we'll jump to the next one. I'm a guy and a coder, Jay Chosen says. Well, Jay Chosen, welcome. Join our Discord and introduce yourself in the Introduce Yourself channel, if you like. Meanwhile, what's a good way to bring up or criticize something that will directly hurt someone's ego as it's their responsibility? Well, there's a few things there. A good way is, first, if you've never talked to them before, jumping straight into a criticism is going to be hard. The more you have a relationship, the better. The second thing to do is don't bring it up in public. Egos get threatened more in public because if you're going to tell me something bad, that's hard for me to accept. If you're going to tell me something bad in front of an audience, that's harder for me to accept. And if you're going to tell me something bad in front of somebody who's important to me, like my boss or my wife, it's the hardest. So there's a good rule generally which says praise in public, criticize in private. There are exceptions to this rule, but that is a good general rule. So take the person aside, buy them a cup of coffee, whatever, a beer. Ask them, say, hey, I'd like to talk to you. Is there a good time for that? Get a good time for it. Don't try and catch them when they're under other stress. Like, oh, I'm late for a meeting. It's not the best time. And then there's a type of feedback called SBI, Situation Behavior Impact. And what you do is you reframe the problem as, here is a situation, we were in this meeting, or your team gave my team the TPS report. And then the behavior was the TPS report had several errors in it. The impact, thank you, Hydrate Right Now, for the sub with Twitch Prime. The impact of the errors on my team was blah, blah, blah. The point of situation behavior impact is you take away from saying directly, you screwed up this report, and instead you're leading them through the situation, the behavior, and the impact. And that's a great way to lead people to feedback. The other way to do this is to try to ask questions, and not super leading questions. Like a bad question is, so the report was wrong. Are you dumb or did you just rush it? Not an honest question. A different question, though, that you can use is, hey, the report, I noticed that there were some problems in the report. Those impacted my team. I'm wondering, how could I help prevent them? Or is there something you need to get the report to be more accurate? Ojo4 says there's being direct and there's being rude. Direct is good. I like direct. A lot of people don't, though. We're going to be talking in 2 weeks. We're going to have Devin Nash on the stream. We're going to do it at Awesome Dave's basement studio. And we're going to go over personality tests. This is a good time to talk about this because I was done answering this question and this comment brings it up. We're going to do the Myers-Briggs type indicator, MBTI, the DISC assessment, and Strengths Finder, which I learned was bought by Gallup and is now called Clifton Strengths. There's Devin. All right, he's here. He knows. He has these links. But more importantly, I put them in our Discord general chat earlier today, and they will be coming out on an upcoming blog post. Now, all of those tests are paid. But if you want to be able to follow along with Devin and I, you can find free versions, certainly, of the Myers-Briggs type indicator and go over that so that when we discuss those personality tests and we reveal Devin's results, because he's never taken any of them, and his girlfriend is super excited for him to do so. He told me this, so I'm telling you this. So it's going to be a big deal. When we go over those, you can follow along. So we'll repost the links later. You can join our Discord to get them, and we'll put them in our blog later when we announce the show officially. But it's on the 22nd, so 2 weeks and 1 day from now. Devin will be live with us. I've been trying to frame feedback by revisit. Yeah. So Racine is a longtime follower of the show, sharing a problem she's having, trying to share feedback. You can ask that as a question if you want, but it's revisiting a shared goal is good. Then asking if ways, I would say try different tactics. And I also know I've coached Racine. She's in a tough situation with a leader above her who seems a little threatened, and that can be really tough. It was in response to offering criticism. Okay. Got it. Yeah. Okay. So we'll jump on to the next question at this point. And we'll tackle the next question. Feel free to keep putting them in, by the way. We have 40 viewers and 2 questions with 2 votes each. For those of you who are new to the stream or have just come in, we have an extension that works on mobile that also works on web where you can ask questions and upvote them. And we're going to tackle the question, what are some strategies to use for removing some of the ego from the equation and redirecting the focus on the work? Good question. As I said earlier, first, keep your own ego out of it. And you have to not just keep your ego under control, you have to really mean it. So that requires you to be empathetic with the other person. In other words, realize this person is struggling. I can either get pissed or I can get effective. And to be effective, I have to have empathy for the fact that something is wrong in their life. I may not be able to fix that, but I can at least have empathy that they're in a bad place. And the reason that matters is the human animal is incredibly good at detecting whether you're sincere or manipulative. It's body language, it's tone, it's eye contact, it's all kinds of things. So first thing is stay calm and be friendly. You can still be assertive while being calm and friendly. Second, the second thing you need to do is take a pause. Slow things down. Do not get into rapid fire exchanges because you don't have time to think and they don't have time to think. Ask them, is this a good time to keep discussing this, or should we maybe take a break? Is one question. Ask, is there something bigger going on here that you need help with? Ask, is there something about this problem I don't understand? It seems like you're having trouble considering my request. Is there some context for why that is? And the value of these questions is often the person who's lashing out isn't doing it consciously, or who's resisting. I use the words lashing out. They may be resisting, they may be pointing you elsewhere, they may be shifting responsibility. The person who's not engaging with you, find out why and realize they may not know why. And so help them figure out what the hell they're doing. Now along here, I get it. You may think, when did I sign up to be a counselor in order to get work done at work? Well, you decided to interact with other humans, and interacting with other humans is hard and has overhead. You can either get mad or you can be effective. This is part of building your set of skills. Other people have ego, and all of us bring our problems to work. You bring your problems to work, I bring my problems to work. When we get together, it's a miracle we don't kill each other. Given that, I have to get good at helping you through not all your problems, but helping you realize, oh, okay, honestly, I'm just feeling really overworked. If someone says that to you, or honestly, I don't think we have the budget for that, or I don't think we have the head count for that, or I don't think my boss is going to approve that. Now you know the problem, and you say, well, how could I help you get your boss's approval? Or under a question my boss taught me is, what would have to be true in order blah? And this question is great because you can actually ask it of almost anything absurd and people will walk with you. And you say, so what would have to be true for you to want to give me your house? Now, this question sounds impossible, right? Like, no one would want to give you their house. But actually, everyone can answer the question, what would have to be true? Well, I'd have to be independently wealthy and not need it anymore. Oh, okay. Well, what is independently wealthy to you? I've used an impractical example in terms of hyperbole to make the point, but you can get people talking about what would have to be true. What would have to be true for you to take on this project? Well, we need more headcount. We need more of this, more of that. Well, okay, let's talk about that. Why do you need more headcount? Why? Like, I'm not doubting you. What's the more headcount for? Can you help me justify that? What's the more budget for? That's how you remove some of the ego from the equation. Is you specifically, I said earlier, the Devin Nash stream with Dr. Kanagia, ego was defined as the part of us, let me get this quote up. Ego is the part of us that is judged by others. Whatever is causing the person to feel judgment, you have to remove. You have to get away from their ego feeling threatened, so they need to defend it. And so the strategy is figure out how to stop threatening their ego. Be non-threatening. Be an ally. Because remember, if they want to look good in their boss, tell them how you can help them look good in front of their boss. If they want to work less, tell them how you can help them work less. Do this project now and it'll be streamlined later, whatever the answer is. It's not always possible, but this is what you can do. Great question. We're going to jump to the next one. And thanks. People are putting some in. And also, Banhammer, I missed that you cheered 100 bits somewhere along the way. So sorry for the delay, but thank you for that. Much appreciated. My manager feels attacked when he receives feedback and has said as much. Well, that's some self-awareness. How can I help him feel safe to receive concerns? Great question. First, you're lucky that your manager can at least admit that. What I would do is I would go talk to your manager sometime when you have no feedback to give him. In other words, I'd take him out for a beer and say, hey, remember a couple weeks ago when you told me you feel threatened when you receive feedback? I don't want you to feel threatened. I don't want you to feel attacked. But sometimes we do have to give you feedback. How can we do that? And then you can always make suggestions. Do you like it better in writing? I know someone who told me, hey, I'm not very good at responding to hard topics on the fly. I need time to process. And I talked earlier about personality tests, and I didn't get to the point there, so I'm going to go back to it. It was somebody brought up that being direct is good, and I generally agree, but I'm a direct person. For some personalities, being too direct feels threatening because they feel that they must respond to that right away. The same thing is true for feedback. People need processing time. Some people like me, we're ready to go. You can say anything to us and we'll fight, we'll flight, we'll process it, we'll engage you and say, really, you think I'm a complete idiot? That's interesting. What has led you to that conclusion? As opposed to getting upset, we're like, that's really unique. You think I should be tarred and feathered. Huh, where did you come up with that? Other people don't feel that way and they can't respond that way. And by the way, you can make me angry in other ways. Those just aren't them. What you need to do then in this case, what I would do that I think is great, is ask them, what is your way of taking this? And if they've taken one of these personality tests, if you know that, because a lot of companies do them all, say, hey, I know you took MBTI. What's your type? Or how does your type handle this? If they haven't taken any of those tests, you say, look, I want to work with your style. What is your style? Everybody can tell you what their style is or what they think it is. You can also ask others, hey, is there anyone in our group who's ever given our manager feedback in some way that's worked? Somebody probably has. They have a different personality. They have a different relationship. So you just do a little investigation. How does this person accept feedback? So your question was, how can I help him feel safe to receive concerns? Two things. Present the concerns in a way that works for him. And second, try to let him know in advance, hey, I know you feel attacked by this. I'm not attacking you. I'm trying to share something for our group's good, or whatever the thing is. I'm trying to help you be more effective. Turn it into something positive. Now, I want to be clear for every piece of advice I've given tonight. The advice will work most of the time for most rational people. People are difficult, ornery beasts, myself included, everyone included. No human interaction is guaranteed to go perfectly all the time. So when you're dealing with ego, you're going to have problems. So do your best and expect good, but realize when you're trying to tease out people's egos, you're already in a bad situation and it's imperfect. Yeah, that caveat. Yikes. There's no human interaction that's flawless. All right. We got a couple more questions in here, but I think while people enter any more questions they have and vote on them, we will do the question of the day. And most of you, we have a lot of regulars here always, which I love. I appreciate all the regulars who come. I also welcome everybody who's new. What we do is we're in week 11 of a 36-week run. Um, and that 36-week run is of questions by Arthur Aaron, who did a study that showed that if you share a little bit about yourselves, you can build closer relationships by sharing something personal, and that other people will share personal things in response. Furoki, I see your question. I will come back to it in a minute. And Pepe Julio, that's a great question. I will take that up offline with Shadow Fox, who can help me figure that out, and with Awesome Dave, our producer. Meanwhile, I hope you get value out of it. Drino, thank you for the sub, second consecutive month. And Shadow, just let me know in Discord later. All right. Question of the day, or question of the week in this case, is unusual, and it's going to be hard to do what we usually do, which is answer things in stream. The question is, take 4 minutes and tell your partner as your life story in as much detail as possible. And at first I thought, we just have to punt on this, because there's no way you all in chat can tell me your life stories in 4 minutes. And so it's asymmetric. Normally people in chat jump in and answer. But I thought it'd be interesting. I've shared a lot about myself, but a lot of you don't know my life story. And so I thought I would take the 4-minute challenge. And my time here says 6:53. So I will hold myself to 4 minutes or less. My life story. All right. I was born on a farm in Ohio to older parents. So the first thing you probably don't know, both of my parents have passed away because of old age. And I always had parents who were a generation older than all my peers. I had an older brother. I say had because he died of alcoholism, and a couple sisters. I wanted to be, when I was a kid, computers came out. I got an Apple II. My dad made me learn how to touch type before I could have it, and I started programming. Thank you, Furoki. I went to Carnegie Mellon. Well, step back. I wrote Apple Computer, and I said, I'd really like to work for you after I graduate. What schools do I need to go to? They named 5 schools: Carnegie Mellon, MIT, Berkeley, Caltech, Stanford. 3 of those are in California. They sounded really far away. That left me Carnegie Mellon and MIT. I got into Carnegie Mellon, not MIT. Jay Chosen, thank you for condensing your story into a tweet that's no doubt better than me. Hasn't changed. Yeah. So I went to college. I learned about robotics, wanted to do that. I went to grad school at Purdue, got a master's, went back to Carnegie Mellon, realized I couldn't stomach a PhD. It was too many years. My office mate was in his 8th year as a PhD student, and I'm like, I cannot do this. That pushed me to industry. Some of you have heard this story before. In my first industry job, I got a Klingon promotion. The guy in front of me got moved aside because he wasn't blunt enough. They wanted a driver person like me. That moved me into management from engineering very quickly. I discovered I like management. I went up the management track. I got hired by Amazon. I ended up eventually with a team of 800 all around the world. I realized I like to test and push people. I like to grow people. I like to see people develop. I like to see them be better. And along my life, I coached and mentored a lot of people. Then I started working for Twitch, and it came together to me, wow, I can't coach people effectively one-on-one in a large scale, but maybe through Twitch I could do it here. And that brings us full circle in just under 4 minutes to why I do the Easy Coach, why I'm here, and why I really appreciate this community. Yay! All right. So I'd love to hear your stories sometime. Maybe when we meet up. I met up with a couple people at TwitchCon and heard their story then. You can share some in Discord in the Introduce Yourself section. But that's a quick version of my story. And the trick is, if you think about it, from Arthur Aaron's research, which we apply in this channel, do you now feel more connected to me? Do you feel like you understand me in some way a little bit better? Maybe there's commonality that you grew up in Ohio or on a farm. Maybe there's commonality that you're the youngest kid. Maybe there's commonality that you worked at startups, or and on and on and on. Relationships come from connection. My parents are old too. Exactly, Kurokan. Okay. So, number one, no one has asked more questions in the extension. So we'll wind down the show after I answer the last couple on ego, unless you have new questions. This is your chance. Meanwhile, Steel City. Yes, sir. I am trained. Excellent. Meanwhile, Furrow asks, why are we going to do the MBTI? Seems like it's been debunked. Furrow, I know you're active in Discord. I'd love for you to share why that is you believe that. Because when I got my MBTI results and when I saw my wife's and other people, I have found it to be incredibly accurate. I got a ton out of my MBTI results. So I'm not going to argue with you, having not seen your evidence, that it's somehow been debunked or partially debunked. It is the oldest of the personality tests. And so that test has been superseded by later work, but I've actually seen it to be incredibly useful and accurate in teasing apart people's types and their behavior that you can count on from that. I've generally seen these tests are scary, insightful. That includes the DISC and Strength Finders. Yeah, simple answer, it's a classic. I agree with that, Firewall. And I agree with it. INTJ, there you go. Firewall has got his type right up. And not surprisingly, by the way, since my results aren't secret, I'll share them and we'll find out Devin's results. I am also INTJ. And anybody who listens to this will not be surprised if they know the Myers-Briggs types. But I fit the description of INTJ very well. Yep, a lot of people here know their Myers-Briggs type. And ENTP, bring them all and we'll discuss them in 2 weeks. The point that comes from the Myers-Briggs and knowing these that applies to ego is understanding what kind of feedback or interaction can work for another person. One of the ways you can threaten someone's ego is if you're interacting with them in a way that's painful for them, they will not react as well. Let's really simplify this. If you're an introvert and I put you in a room of strangers and try to ask you, go work the card and go work the room, collect business cards and make sales for our product, I'm threatening that person's ego because I've given them a task they're going to hate. Conversely, if I take an extrovert and I say, I need you to work on this project totally alone. I can't have you disturb anyone else in our group. I need you to do this entirely by yourself. The extrovert might start okay, but 10 minutes later or an hour later, they're going to be hating it. And I'm going to start getting all the reasons why they can't do it, and they're not going to follow through. This is the most simple thing everybody understands at some level, introverts and extroverts. This is the most simple way to break that apart. All right, fantastic. We got a couple questions left here. Furrow, I hope that answered it. I hope that answered, but I'd be interested to see any research you have. I don't believe any of these tests are perfect, which is why we're going to go over 3 others. The Advocate, INFJ-T. That's what I get when I take the test currently. Excellent. So we have a lot of I's here. We only had 1 E show up. So that's probably the biggest commonality in the tests. All right, moving on. Questions we have, because we're on ego today, not personality tests. How much should you balance ego when trying to convey passion, interest, ability during work projects and interviews? Ooh, I've never thought about this. So you're getting the eye roll up into the head. How much should you balance ego? So in this case, I think what you're asking has more to do with seeming egotistical than threatened ego. And by the way, I love hard questions that make me think. So thank you, whoever asked this. How much you try to balance ego? I think in there's confidence and there's egotism. If everything you say in an interview is I this, I that, that's not going to go as well as conveying passion, interest, and ability. I think those are very positive traits, and you can lean into what you have done as long as you're not making outrageous claims and you can back it up and you're not saying, I did this when clearly it took a team. I think interviews are situational, but people are expecting you to sell yourself a little bit. And I would lean on the side of saying more rather than less and stronger. And particularly, by the way, I would advise women to do this. And the reason I would advise women is that females, as a generalization, as a group in studies, are less likely to claim responsibility and more likely to deprecate their own abilities. So there is some evidence that that hurts them in interviews and certainly in promotions, as well as what jobs they choose to apply for. So how much should you balance ego? I think interviews are a place for confidence. I've said before in how to win an interview or how to do well in an interview. The number one and two things that are common across all interviews is passion, appearance and enthusiasm. And enthusiasm is very close to passion. So I would go ahead and sell those. And I would just be careful not to make obviously egotistical claims. I am the best programmer, not good. Let me tell you about some of the hard things I've been able to solve as a developer. Fantastic. I had the privilege of working on a really challenging bridge design. Can I show you our final results in my portfolio? Fantastic. Oh yeah, it was because of me we won the Poughkeepsie Bridge competition. Not fantastic. And it's the same data. You may have won because of your architectural work. Can I show it to you is way better. All right, Life Coach 74 is back. Excellent. Read the chapter on pride in C.S. Lewis' book, and they will know the difference on ego and arrogance. I believe that. Which C.S. Lewis book, Life Coach? C.S. Lewis, by the way, is awesome, deep thinker. I don't have any of his books on my recommended reading list. I could add a couple. But fascinating deep thinker, now long dead. All right, next question. Under what circumstances would maintaining an ego be beneficial, if any? Ego is a protective mechanism. So one place is, I'm not sure if it's maintaining ego, but false criticism. There are plenty of people who will attack you for what you do. They will attack you. I'm going to move the camera angle just a little here. They will attack you for doing wrong. For doing right, for doing no wrong. I'm not a psychologist, so I can't completely answer this. But under what circumstances would maintaining ego be beneficial? You need to have confidence. And remember, ego is what makes you feel judged, is what comes out when you feel judged. If someone is judging you, having an ego that can be confident and say, hey, thank you for that input. I don't agree, but my self-worth either way is not based only on your opinion, is part of being able. That's valuable. There's value in having your self-worth be separate, or at least not completely based on other people's assessments. Now, some people would say it should be based not at all on other people's assessments. You may listen to their assessment for data, but you're not basing your self-worth on their assessment. Okay. We'll go to the last question in a second. I want to talk for a minute, though, and say, reminder, I covered this early in the show, but there's a lot of new people here. Next week on Tuesday, I'll be doing my first and only charity stream, the only one we'll do this year. We'll be raising money for the Washington Trails Association. It's going to be my birthday stream, so I hope you'll join me and celebrate. We'll have a wonderful speaker, the executive director, Jill Simmons of Washington Trails there. And I meant to note earlier, she'll be the first time we've had a female leader on the stream. And so we'll be able to ask some difficult questions, I think, about what it means to be a woman in leadership, a woman in an executive role. She has experience leading both nonprofits and government. She also has a cool job where she does trail work. And so, yep, I see Shadow chiming in. Bring your questions on females in leadership, particularly in the channel. And I'm sure she can deal with hard questions. She can deal with questions like, as a guy, how do we interact with women in leadership? What's good, what's not? So we don't just have to, not only the women have a voice in that conversation that should be interesting, but let's talk about the auction. I'm going to auction off several hours of private coaching. And that private coaching, I rarely have time to do. I'm going to end up taking weekend time to do it for whoever the auction winners are so that we can raise some money for a good charity. And I'm also going to raffle off an hour of private coaching for amongst all the subscribers. And since I have never pushed for subscribers to this channel, it actually has very few subscribers. So you can buy yourself a raffle ticket by subscribing. All the money from subscriptions goes to Washington Trails. I donate everything that comes in on the channel, and I will continue to do that, certainly for the month of October. And it's a way to do a raffle that supports all the people who are here and who have supported the channel in the past and who may not be able to win an auction. Paintbrush Hero, thank you for the sub. And good luck in the auction, or in the raffle. As for the auction, by the way, I said earlier, if you know someone who could use some coaching, either you can send them to bid, and if they don't use Twitch, just have them bid in a message to me on LinkedIn. The bid keeper is going to be 40 Pink Dragons, our moderator, and they can also come on Twitch and private message 40 Pink Dragons with a bid, and you only have to pay up if you win. Oh, Drino, that's tough. That's rough. It's true what you said, but painful to me that you would ask for that. Bottom line is that'll all be next week. And then we have Kristen, who we coach once a month, coming back for her next coaching follow-up on the 16th. And then 2 consecutive shows with Devin and Devin Nash's community, the Nash Nation. He'll be on our channel to go over the personality test on the 22nd, and I'll be going to Devin World on Saturday the 26th to do live resume review, including, by the way, taking my own resume there for him to critique and the community to talk about. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I will put myself under the microscope. I have not written a resume in at least 10 years. So I have to do the work. I've advised you on it. Now you get a chance to shoot at mine if you like. All right. Let's see. Last question here then is, if humans have egos, is there a purpose behind them? How can we utilize our ego instead of suppressing it? Oh, we are out of my depth here, and that's my own fault. Life Coach 724 has a psychology degree. Might be able to shed some light on this if he's listening. If not, Dr. Kanagia, who I think will be um, back on Devin's channel in the future, probably knows the answer. I can try and postulate this. Look, egos, I'm sure, have a positive purpose. Part of their purpose is to allow us to function in the presence of emotional pain. So when pain gets too great, I feel bad, I'm being crushed by feedback, I'm being attacked by people, just or unjust, I still need to get food, clothing, shelter, eat, whatever. Ego is the part of us that allows us to push that away and put a protective cone around me, the essential human being, and keep going forward. I'm here and I'll send you info, Ethan. All right, thank you, Life Coach. I'll have to follow up on that. It's probably too long for him to type an explanation of what ego is useful for in chat. But I'm sure there is a good purpose for ego. And ego is, I think, part of motivation. Ego is what props us up and gives us a self-image that we want to live up to. And so it can be a positive inspiration of this is how I view myself. I view myself as an honest person. Well, that will discourage me from lying. Now, it will also cover my ass and rationalize for me if I do lie, but it may inspire me to be that better person, to try to live up to it. And so I'm not going to ramble, though, because I don't really know. What I know is how to deal with ego when it's on the loose at work. So with that, we're done with questions. We have a few minutes left, and so... oh, wait. I will feed you stuff for you to explain. This is fantastic. We'll get this on the fly. Life Coach, you talk for a minute. You type for a minute. I'm going to bring our mystery object forwards, and we're going to have story time to close out a great hour and 15 minutes with you as a community. One sec. So I'm always recommending really heavy books, thick books, hard to read. This time we're going to go super simple. A friend of mine who's a very successful entrepreneur pointed this out. He excerpted on his Facebook parts of Oh, the Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss. Now, you might think, what in the heck could a Dr. Seuss book have to do with professional development? But I'm going to quote a couple pages of this. And of course, it's available on Amazon. That's where I bought it. So this book is classically given to graduates to inspire them. But I'm going to pick it up. It would take a little while to read the whole book. I recommend it, though, because it's really about how are you going to manage your life and the setbacks you're going to run into. And so, Oh, the Places You'll Go. We'll read it. I'll try and do it like it was with kids, right? You'll be on your way up. You'll be seeing great sights. You'll join the high flyers. Oh, wait, that's us. By the way, we were trying to name the community last week. I think executives is a pretty good one. Combines easy coach and executives. So for all the executives, you'll join the high flyers who soar to high heights. There's a woman in Germany, by the way, who's something Oma, which means grandma, who does nothing on Twitch but read kids' books to people. All right. You won't lag behind because you'll have speed. You'll pass the whole gang and you'll soon take the lead. Wherever you fly, you'll be the best of the best. Wherever you go, you will top all the rest. Except when you don't, because sometimes you won't. I'm sorry to say so, but sadly it's true that bang-ups and hang-ups can happen to you. You'll get all hung up in a prickly perch and your gang will fly on and you'll be left in a lurch. You'll come down from the lurch with an unpleasant bump, and the chances are then you'll be in a slump. When you're in a slump, you're not much in for fun. Unslumping yourself is not easily done. You will come to a place where the streets are not marked. Some windows are lighted, but mostly they're dark. A place you could sprain both your elbow and chin. Do you dare to stay out? Do you dare to go in? How much can you lose? How much can you win? And if you go in, should you turn left or right? Or right and 3/4, or maybe not quite? Or go around back and sneak in from behind? Simple it's not, I'm afraid you will find. For a mind maker upper to make up his mind. I'm going to get to the point here. You can get so confused that you'll start to race down a long wiggled road at a breaknecking pace and grind on for miles across weirdish wild space. Does this sound like a career to anyone? It should. Headed, I fear, towards a most useless place, a waiting place. For people just waiting for a train to go or a bus or plane, a bus to come or a plane to go, or the mail to come or the rain to go, or the phone to ring or the snow to snow. If you don't understand that this book is really about career management and is the easy coach in a nutshell, go do yourself a favor and read a wonderful, simple rhyme that will remind you of all the things on this show wadded together and super, super condensed. I could probably do a whole series of shows just unpacking stuff from Dr. Seuss books and the places you'll go. So if I ever run out of ideas, I'll do that. All right. So what's the happy conclusion? Basically, everyone is just waiting, except it says, no, that's not for you. Somehow you'll escape all that waiting and staying. You'll find the bright places where boom bands are playing. With banner flip-flapping, once more you'll ride high, ready for anything under the sky, ready because you're that kind of guy. On and on. Okay, point is, this is the Easy Coach philosophy in much better rhyme than I could give it to you. And you will hit setbacks. All right, and I'm glad some of you are ready for bed. Let's see if Life Coach sent anything through. It doesn't look like it yet. Must be still typing away or sending it to me in email. My coach write books. Okay, so with that, I think we're good. I will share on Discord, if nowhere else, what I get from Life Coach, or we'll follow up on it next week. Life Coach often has a good book to recommend, so whether I've read it or not, I will share it with chat here. You guys have been a great audience. I hope you enjoyed an unusual aside of reading a bedtime story. That was a ton of fun, and I didn't realize how much I miss having little kids. With that said, I hope you'll join us next week on the 15th for the charity auction, and to hear from Jill Simmons about leading in government and nonprofits, which I don't know that much about. Yeah, for any of you who are on the East Coast in particular, it is bedtime for chat now. And for the rest of you who are West Coast gamers, you've got like 9 hours of gaming you can get off to, because it's early for that. Otherwise, I'll close with one more fun story, and then I'll ring off. So here's the fun story. I'll share with you. It's about ego again. The fact you will always be criticized no matter what you do. Some of you have heard this story, but let me explain it this way. Imagine Bill Gates decided to give everyone in America $100. That would cost about $33 billion, and he has it. So tomorrow morning, every man, woman, and child in America, and Drino, you can comment on this in a second since you're in Europe, every man, woman, and child gets a new $100 bill. Now, what are they all going to say? You can actually answer in chat what you would think of it. Tomorrow morning, unexpectedly, you wake up and magically there's $100 bill on your pillow or in your on your thing that says, "Hey, courtesy of Bill Gates, enjoy." How would you feel about it? Well, a lot of people would say, "That's great. Like, thank you. I wasn't expecting $100. You didn't have to give it to me. That would be fantastic. That's great." But here's the key. Do you think that many people would take issue? And they would say, "Well, why did you give $100 to the rich people? They already had it. It's women in America who are downtrodden." Or, yeah, what a waste of 33 billion. Or why didn't you give it to Africa where there's terrible poverty? Or why didn't you give it to, cure homelessness? The key to this story, and this is the point, is you are not giving away $100 bills. And anything you do, there is someone who's going to critique and criticize it. Because if a guy gives away $100 bills by the billions, and people are still, including the people in this chat, are going to immediately say things like, "What a waste," then that may be true in their opinion, but you're going to have this no matter what you do. So I leave you with that story about ego, where you're going to be criticized for anything you do, no matter how good it is. Life Coach 724 is a Christian friend of mine. He would say, and I've shared this story, that part of the biblical story, whether you take the Bible as true or whether you take it as history, an allegory, a story, the story of Jesus was, here's a perfect man, and people hated him so much that they crucified him. The point is, whether it's Bill Gates giving away $100 bills or anybody else, no matter what you do, someone's going to hate you for it. So you're going to have to figure out how to manage your life through that opposition. And with that, I've had a great time. This is why we can't have nice things. That is so true, because someone will criticize you for everything. Can't please everyone. That is completely true. It's an old saying. I just wanted to illustrate it. The Bill Gates giving away money illustration really helped me when I came up with it, because I realized, oh my God, he can't buy happiness with $33 billion. What the heck am I going to do? I have to lead people as best I can. I have to lead this community and try and give value to you. None of you can see this, or few of you can see it. Every now and then it goes by in my scroll where the moderators have deleted big blocks of messages. So what those are trolls jumping in who hate the channel. They've discovered us in just chatting. And they're usually like, "What's this old guy doing on, and why isn't he playing games or saying something about gaming?" And then they start ranting. And then they get deleted. Luckily, I don't have to see it here, but you're going to get that. And by the way, Ardzard, I see you just got your first job at college at the Big N. Hopefully that's Netflix. Who's the Big N? Super pumped. Thanks for the insight. And I'll go back and watch some of your workplace videos. Awesome. I hope it helps you. You guys have any tips for things I can read, prepare for 3 weeks before starting my first full-time software engineering job? The classic book for starting a new job right now, it's not a classic, is The First 90 Days. It's about going in and what you should do in the first 90 days. Firewall is not a troll. I wasn't, he was unfairly targeted by a bot. I didn't see who got deleted. That's fine. I'm not saying Firewall's a troll. He seems to be a very good new member of the community. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. I'm going to go have dinner. I've really enjoyed spending this evening with you, and I hope to see you in 8 days for our big show and birthday celebration. All right. Cheers and good night.